Right. So we will. I think it's time to start. Right. So today we are going to talk about the metaphysical poets. Yeah, so the first we'll discuss John Donne, who is considered the greatest of the metaphysical poets. He was the leading poet of the school. So when we talk about the metaphysical poets, we must understand that this group of poets, the school of poets, they did not form a school as such during their own time, right? It was only later on that Samuel Johnson coined this term metaphysical poets to this group of poets because of their stylistic similarities and the nature of the language, right? So they were classed together as one school of poets only later on. But during their time, their works were recognized separately, right? Okay. So, what makes this school different from all the others? If we consider the school's notable features of these poets are the content of their poems, the intellectual content, especially deviating from the previous poets. For example, deviating from the Elizabethan school of poets. Of course, it was the same themes, the same love, the same religion. The themes were not very different, but the way they treated these themes, uh, how they handled these themes, and they looked at these ideas, this love, the concept of God, they looked at these things with a novelty, with a fresh pair of eyes. So that is what made them ingenious and made them stand out from the rest of the other poets, right? Even from their contemporaries. For example, if we look now, when we discuss his poets in detail, we will see that how they use the images, especially the metaphysical conceit, right? The extended metaphor. It's a metaphor which compares two unlikely or unrelated images, seemingly unrelated. For example, when Don discusses the two lovers as the arms of a compass, so they are different, right, entirely. But when you go on to a deeper level, you can understand why they are similar, right? What is the similarity in this? So there's a deeper truth in this seemingly paradoxical images, right? The two lovers compared to the arms of a compass. Or when we talk about the flea, right? Comparing the two lovers or the marriage bed or the union between two lovers to a flea, right? So the similarity is very what you call radical, groundbreaking, okay? And also the intellectual content. Of course, some poets have noted this, right? Perplexing the minds of the fairer sex, because love, which was supposed to be a softer theme, usually the poets elaborated the love, or they exaggerated the qualities of the lover. Either the physical appearance or the physical beauty or the qualities of the lover were admired in courtly love poems. But here we see John Donne deviating from that tradition and then taking it to an argumentative level in terms of an argument. In the form of an argument, he argues, right? So in that, the intellectual content is what is prominent in his poems. Okay, right. So shall we then move on to each of these poems in detail? We look at how these poems are different. The first one we have here is the song, Sweetest Love I Do Not Go. I hope you all have a copy of that poem, right? The song, Sweetest love I do not go for weariness of thee. The poem begins with an apostrophe addressing the lover. I'm not going because I'm tired of you, right? Nor in hope the world can show a fitter love for me. I'm not going in the hope that I can find a better lover. But because everyone must die at last, my departure is a kind of a jest. It's a I'm dying in jest, so that you can get used to it, so that you will be accustomed to my absence, right? So then each stanza he follow this initial argument. This initial introduction is followed by a series of arguments. Each stanza is an argument. Yesterday the sun went hence, and yet is here today. Yesterday the sun went down, but today it is here. He has no desire, no sense, no half so short away. He doesn't have any shortcuts. But then why do you fear me? Because I will be speedier than he, right? I take more wings and spurs than he. What are the wings and the spurs? The desire and the sense. So I have much more desire and more sense than the sun. So if you can be sure of the sun, then you can be sure of my return. So this is what he says. Oh, how feeble is man's power, that if good fortune fall, cannot add another hour. If we have good fortune, when we have luck, we cannot add another hour, we cannot extend that happy period. So how feeble is man's power? You see the feeble nature of man, how feeble it is that when he has good fortune, he cannot extend that good fortune at least by an hour, or he cannot add anything to it, right? He cannot make it luckier, nor a lost hour recall. But come bad chance, when bad luck comes, we join to it our strength, and we teach it art and length itself over us to advance. We teach it art and length. How do we teach it art and length? By our sighs and our mourning, right? When the lover has come to this stage of departure, uh, when the lover, perhaps this mistress is sighing, right? She's begging the poet not to go. So that is art and length. We uh, make it longer, we add to it our strength, we make it more painful by crying over it. Of course the moment of departure is sad, but before the moment of departure also we sigh over it and we worry over it, and after the departure also we fret over it. So because of this departure, the sadness of the departure is prolonged, right? To see that argument, second stanza argument, comparing the lover to a son. The sun is, you can be assured of the sun's return, then you can be much more surer of my return. And in the third stanza, how he convinces the lover to let him go, not to mourn his departure. Uh, so in each stanza, the argument is gradually built up. Then coming towards the end of it, the poet becomes much more sentimental. When thou sighest not me, but sighest my soul away, taking the level to a more personal level. Now, from the intellectual arguments to a more personal level. When you sigh not the wind, but you sigh my soul away. And when you weep, my life's blood doth decay. When you are weeping, my blood is wasted. So we can see the unkindly kind here, the paradox. Um, unkindly kind. When you weep, my life, the unkindly kind, my life's blood doth decay. It cannot be so that you love me as you say, because if you in your life you're wasting my life, you cannot be love. You cannot claim to say that you love me if you are wasting my life in you, because in your sighing and in your weeping you are wasting away my life, right? So coaxing, a kind of a very cajoling poet who cunningly tries to persuade the lover to let him go on this journey. If you are weeping and if you are mourning and sighing, and in that you are wasting away my life, you cannot say that you truly love me. You cannot have any claim that you love me. Let not thy divining heart forethink me any ill. Let not thy heart forethink me any ill. Do not predict any disaster or ill luck or bad fortune on me. Do not forethink, do not foresee any death or imminent danger. Because why? Destiny may take thy part, and may thy fears fulfill. If you fear that it might happen, your fears might be realized. Therefore, do not predict or do not fear any danger. It might come true. But just think that we are turned aside to sleep. Just imagine that we are sleeping, right, side by side. They who one another keep alive never parted be. If you keep me in your heart, they who keep each other in their hearts are always alive. They never part. Okay. So this is the first poem that we are talking about. Here we see the poet consoling the lover before his departure, assuring of his speedy return. So it's a simple poem, a very lyrical poem and even playful, not very serious, not addressing very serious things, but playfully and cajolingly uh, addressing the lover and assuring of his speedy return and coaxing her to let him go on the journey. Right. We'll move on to the second poem, The Flea. Now, in the previous poem, if we look at the metaphysical conceits here, right? Of course, there aren't. This is not a it's very famous, but it is not the best, which brings out Don's strength in the conceit, the metaphysical conceit, right? So when he compares the lover to a son, sorry, the son to a lover, the son is uh, very reliable. He returns every day. So in that same way, you can be assured of my return, right? So that's also metaphysical conceit. You can say that it's a simile. What other images can we see here? Hmm. Speedier journey, since I take more wings and spurs than he, right? The image of a chariot, the image of the sun coming in, traveling in a chariot is very familiar. So here, John Donne is making use of that image here. I take more wings and spurs than he, right? The image of the chariot is there. Right. So when we come to the second poem, The Flea, it's another playful poem, right? So all of throughout here we see uh, in John Donne's love poetry, especially he treats love at a very physical plane in comparison to the previous poets for whom love was a mere adoration of the lover at a physical level, appreciating the physical beauty or the outward appearance of the lover or the qualities. But for John Donne, specifically, love is sex, right? So the flea is compared to the lover's marriage bed or the union between two lovers. So we'll see here how interestingly he portrays this. Mark but this flea and mark in this, how little that which thou deniest me is. So the address, the introductory line of the poem, the first line, we see him on a stage. Mark but this flea and mark in this. Look at this flea, right? Look at this flea. Look here. How little that which thou deniest me is. So maybe the lady is denying any physical contact with the poet, right? So he says, how small a thing which you are small the thing which you are denying me is. It's a small thing. It sucked me first and now sucks thee, and in this way our two bloods mingled be. It first sucked your blood and now it sucks. It first sucked my blood and now it sucks your blood. And in this way our two bloods are mingled. And now you know that this cannot be a sin or shame nor a loss of maidenhead. You know that it cannot be said this flea bite in the two lovers cannot be said a sin or a shame, or it cannot be said a loss of virginity, right? But this enjoys before it woo. Before we enjoy ourselves, our bodies, this flea has enjoyed it and pampered swells with one blood. It is already pampered with the blood of the two lovers, and it swells with that. And this, alas, is more than we would do. This is what more than we would dare to do. So what we do not dare to do, this flea has done. Oh, stay 3 lives in one flea spare. See the language there, oh stay 3 lives in one flea spare, right? So you can almost see the visual image of the lady trying raising her hand to kill the flea, right? So stay, do not hold, right? Stay there, don't kill the flea. Hold, do not stay. 3 lives in one flea spare, do not kill it. Where we more almost me more than married, we are not only married, it's almost we have met, we have almost had sex in the flea, right? So where we almost more than married, this flea is you and I, and this our marriage bed and marriage temple is, right? So this the flea is the marriage bed and even the marriage temple. And though parents grudge and you, we are met and cloistered in these living walls of jet. So within the dark walls of the tree, you and I have already met, and we are living cloistered, secretively. We are cloistered in the secret walls of the tree, right? So the John Donne, he critics have almost said that he breaks away from the orthodox religious imagery. He uses the same images but for a different purpose. Now, here the theme of love is presented in a radical way. It is sensual love, right? It's almost sex if we say it in our language. But sex was not a topic that was discussed in Donne's time. So, in that, he was revolutionary. At the same time, although he radically departs from that what you call the Christian notion of pure love, uh, not carnal love, but pure love. He departs from that, but his language is primarily set up within the Christian tradition. He still draws influence from the Christian religion or the Catholic religion to exemplify his ideas. So the cloister and the temple, right? Still using images from Christianity, but of course moving a step away and using them in a novel way to give meaning to his themes, right? So the notion of secrecy, privacy, all that is there, and even the holiness of the union. The two lovers are met, their union, their sexual intimacy, that is considered holy. How does he achieve that? Through the word temple. It is John Donne equals sensual pleasure, not sensual pleasures actually, a sexual union with sacred love, right? It is for him almost a sacred or a religious experience. You must not say that this is merely carnal pleasure, right? John Donne is not uh, advocating or he is not celebrating just carnal pleasure. It is love for him, right? So John Donne, sex is love, right? So he says that this is sacred and denying sex before marriage is a kind of a sacrilege, he says. So see, we'll come to that later. Though parents grudge and you, we are met and cloistered in these living walls of death. So parents grudge it, and you yourself are grudging this, denying me this. But we are met in these cloistered walls, dark walls. Though use means you have to kill me. Although by killing the fly you think it's okay to kill me by killing the flea. Do not add self-murder to that. Do not add suicide to it, because in the killing the flea you are killing two people, or almost three people, right? The flea, you and me. So do not add self-murder to it, because you are killing yourself in the flea, because your blood is in the flea. And sacrilege. Three sins in killing three. How is sacrilege committed here? Why? Because in the flea, two people are united. So in killing the flea, sacrilege is committed. So in other words, what he's telling is denying me this is almost sacrilege, right? Three sins in killing three. In killing the flea, you are killing three people and committing three sins. A very playful and an unusual argument is brought in this stanza. Cruel and sudden hast thou since purpled thy nail in blood of innocence? Have you tainted your hand with the blood of the flea? Wherein could this flea guilty be except in that drop which it sucked from thee? How can it be guilty except in this tiny drop of blood that it sucked from you? How, in what way is it guilty? Why do you kill this flea? Yet you triumph, but you are happy, and you says that thou findest not thyself, nor me, the weaker now. You say that we are not weaker, although I have killed the flea. You and I are not weakened. So that means there is no great harm in killing the flea. It is true. Then see, his argument is true. Then learn how false fears be. How false, how irrational are your fears. Just so much honor when you yield to me will waste, as this flea's death took life from thee. This flea, death has not taken any honor, or it has not tainted your honor in any respect. Then how false is your fear that by yielding to me you will lose your honor, or it will bring you shame? It is just a false fear. So how much honor will you lose if you yield to me? So almost cracks in the lover to illicit sex. So see the unusualness of the metaphor here, the field. This metaphor is special also because the idea, the image is ingenious, it's so radical and it's so unlikely, but also how he brings out the argument. It's a paradoxical idea, right? In the sea that the two bloods are mingled. Of course, it's not just that the two bloods are mingled. We know that when we in making sex, it's not just that the bloods are mingled, but what done means here is that the union between the two lovers is almost a sacred thing, right? And by killing the flea, it is, or by not yielding to him, the marriage, or what you call the sacredness of this marriage, is denied. So it's a very unusual and radical argument that is presented by him. So if we compare this with the previous poem, Sweetest Lover Do Not Go, this poem is much more serious in tone, not at the beginning, but towards the, at least towards the middle of the poem, where he talks about marriage as a sacred thing, or not exactly the marriage, but the union of the two lovers as something sacred. He is becoming much more serious here, right? He is almost similar to a modern poet in his ideas. Someone like uh, who is it? B.H. Lawrence, right? Where he says B.H. Lawrence, of course, is very radical in that sense. He said the natural instincts of man are much more sacred and much more holier, loftier above the earth than man-made culture or man-made religion, right? So Donne does not go to that extent to say that, of course, this pleasure is the one that is better. But he does depart from conforming to religion. He does not condone the religious view, the sacredness of the marriage ritual within the church. He does not see any significance in that, but he does see the significance of pure love, true love, right? Before any marriage or before any ritual. That which is called pure love is what is important for them. But of course, you cannot say that he does criticize Catholicism or he does criticize religious influence. He doesn't go to that extent to criticize the religious things, right? But he does break away from that very Christian conformity to marriage or its sacred sacraments or whatever. If you compare him with Blake, where Blake is almost within, very much within the Catholic Church. He says that marriage has become a hearse because due to the harlot's cry, right? Due to prostitution. So the marriage has become a hearse. Marriage, which is sacred, which is the thing of the church, is blasphemed. Here, Dunn does not say anything. He does not. He doesn't seem to pay any respect to those that thing, the church's authority over marriage. It is not for him a business of the church, but it is for him something between the two lovers, right? So in that way, he is breaking away from Orthodox religion. Confirming to this Christian notion of thing is not there in his works. Okay. I hope you all are taking down notes, right? Right, so then we'll move on to the next poem, the Canonization. So the canonization is the process, a process of the Catholic Church where people are made into saints, where they are declared saints. The names of the people are entered into the canon of the saints. So people, when people who have displayed exceptional heroic virtue, right, say at the expense of their own lives, they practiced virtue, like martyrs who were killed for their faith, even at the cost of their life, they did something virtuous, so they are considered saints. So canonization is the process whereby people are lifted to the level of sainthood. So once they are saints, normal people have the ability to invoke their blessings, ask for the intercession from God to get them blessings for these things. So for example, we have so many saints in the Catholic Church. You know, if you all are Catholics or Christians, you might know Saint Sebastian, who is the patron saint of for averting diseases, right? So Saint Anthony, if some object is lost, we go to Saint Anthony, right? So you have a saint for special cause, for cancer, for the cure of cancer, a particular saint, right? So if that saint is associated with something, you can ask benefits, blessings from that saint for you, right? So sainthood is taken as an image here. Of course, it is again not a novel image. The old concept of the lovers as saints was there even before Dawn. Even before Dawn, it was used by poets. But here again, Dawn takes it to a different level, right? The purity of love is just what makes them saints. Earlier, it was the qualities of the lover which made them into saints. Now, here it is the nature of love itself which makes them into saints. So, we are made by such love. The saints are made by love. Right? We are canonized by love. Just it's only on account of love that we are canonized. It is by nothing else. It's not by the two lovers, the qualities of the lover, right? So that is immaterial. This done does not anywhere go into descriptions of his lover, but just love itself is seen. For God's sake, hold your tongue and let me love. Right? The imperative, the command, hold your tongue and let me love. It's a very sharp command. All of John's poems begins like this, mark but this way and mark in this. Right? So addressing the audience directly, either the lover or here in the sense a gossiper, someone who is a busybody who is slandering and spreading rumors maybe about the illicit affair, maybe, right? So that command, this language, this lively language which is used by Donne is very popular. This is one thing which makes his poems very attractive. Apart from the arguments, right? What makes his poems attractive, even if you take this set of poems later on in a day, so maybe so very after a very long time after your degree, if you take this set of poems and read his poems again, you will find the same amusement. How do we find that? Because of the one thing is the intellectual content and the argument. It's very playful. You will never tire of this. Whereas if you maybe you might not feel the same sense of excitement if you read something from Blake or Wordsworth or Shakespeare, right? You the same charm is not there, but here the argument is very radical and it's very engaging. And another thing is the language, which is very spontaneous and direct. God's sake, hold your tongue and let me love. That's very direct. Right? So the liveliness of the language is very, it's a key factor in Donne's poems. For God's sake, hold your tongue and let me love. Or chide my palsy or my gout. My 5 grey hairs are ruined fortune proud. Talk about anything else. You can maybe laugh at my arthritis or my pains or my graying hair. My only I have few hairs on my head. Whatever it is, talk about those things. My ruined fortune. Go gossip about such things, but do not gossip about my love. Anything apart from my love you can talk about. Improve your wealth, improve your state with your wealth. With wealth, your state, your mind with arts improve. Improve your mind with the arts and improve your wealth, state with your wealth. Take a course, find a place, take a high position, right? Observe his honor or his grace. You can maybe uh, admire his honor, right? Or his grace, the bishops. Or the king's real or his stamped face. The stamped face may be on a coin, right? So whatever it is, the king's face, he is almost ridiculing the king's face, whatever it is. Even the real face or the face on the coin, you admire that, whatever it is. Contemplate his real face or his face on a coin. What you will, you do. So you will let me love, right? Very simple and very humorous. It's almost colloquial and modern. This kind of language we find even in colloquial poems in simple. Whatever it is you do and let me be with my lover. In simple terms, that is what he's saying. So it has been elevated to the level of poetry. And then the argument. Why put restrictions on my love? Alas, alas, who's injured by my love? For what reason do you prohibit my love? Why? What is the reason for this? What merchant ships have my sighs drowned? Who says my tears have overflowed his ground? The king's grounds are not overflowed. Perhaps the poet has fallen in love with some a courtier, right? Someone in the court, within the courts. When did my coals the forward spring remove? When did the highs and lows, when did his passion? The forward spring remove. The spring is coming. So when did it delay the spring? Or when did the heat which my veins feel add one more to the bill? It hasn't done any harm in any of these ways. So why not let me love? The poet is validating his right to love. No one has the right to stop him from loving. Soldiers find wars and lawyers find out still litigious men. So just as the soldier finds the war and lawyers find litigious men, just to keep themselves entertained, right? This is all what they do. Soldiers go for war, merchants go for money, so explorers go for other lands, whereas I go for my love. Though she and I do love, so this is what lovers do. What is the harm? Call us what you will. We are made by such love, right? Now, moving on here, almost taking us to a more the mysteriousness of this union. We are made by such love. Call her one, me another flight. We are tapers too, and at our own cost die. So for the saints, we light the candles. We light the candles for the saints. Here in this case, the two lovers are themselves the candles. Tapers means the candles. So we are ourselves the candles. So when we spend ourselves, we are burnt. Maybe it's consumed by the passion, right? And at our own cost die. And we in us find the eagle and the dove. The phoenix riddle hath no wit by us. We in us find the eagle and the dove. So the eagle is above the earth, and so in the Renaissance image, uh, the dove is ascending. We see even in the Holy Trinity now, the three images of the Holy Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is symbolized by the dove. So many a time we find the dove descending from heaven to earth, right? So it's a symbol of that union, the mystic union between these two lovers. The phoenix riddle hath more wit by us. If you are familiar with the image of the phoenix, it's a Greek mythological bird where it once in a lifetime it burns, it lives and then it burns into ashes. And the mystery of it is from its own very ashes it is reborn. So it never dies in fact. But of course it is not the same bird that rises. It's a new bird, right? So it's a process of evolution and rebirth, being reborn again. So uh, what he says here, to one neutral thing both sexes fit. We two being one are it. We fit into one neutral sex. We die and rise the same and prove mysterious by this love. Uh, by our passion we are consumed and then we are born again anew as two lovers, right? So it's a mysterious love here. So all these images, the tapers, the phoenix, the eagle, and the dove, all those. Now moving on to a more religious or a more mysterious experience, he is now taking it to a deeper level. All that symbolizes for him the bond between the two lovers, which they are bonded by the physical passion. We can die by it, if not live by love. Either we will die by love or we will live by love. If we cannot live, we can die by love. So an impending doom is also highlighted here, right? The impending disaster of death. Maybe this love affair is something that is prohibited. And if unfit for tombs and hearse, our legend be. If our love affair, if our romance is not fit for tombs and hearse, if we are not given a proper burial, then it will at least be fit for verse. And if no piece of chronicle we prove, will build in sonnets pretty rooms. If our names are not entered in history in the chronicles, then we will build each ourselves pretty rooms through sonnets. In a sonnet we will become immortal. As well, a well-wrought urn becomes the greatest ashes as half-acre tombs. Yes, I'm recording this lecture, right? Um, we yes, the greatest ashes, the half-acre tombs. So this the urn can contain the greatest ashes. Now earlier we saw in Keats' poetry, he's, Keats says that an urn is more immortal, more everlasting than mere human beings. So in the same way, things are preserved, or life or is preserved in poetry or in art in the urn, right? So an urn, a well-wrought urn, a well-made urn can make the two lovers immortal just as much as tombs. The tomb may be spread across half an acre, but it's not necessary. It can even be the lovers can be made immortal even in an urn. Also, the urn can contain the ashes, right? So he's telling even in if our ashes are contained in an urn or even in a tomb, it doesn't matter which, we are made immortal. By these hymns we shall prove us canonized for love. We shall be immortal, not only immortal, but even canonized for love. This love is sacred. This love is what makes us saints. We are canonized for love. And thus invoke us. Now, once we are dead and we are made saints, you will invoke us. You whom reverent love made one another's hermitage. Through your love for each other, you made each other's hermitage. We were not hermits during our life, but through your love, you made each other's hermitages. You to whom love was peace, that now is rage. For us, love is now rage. It is just a cause of fighting. When you prohibit love affairs, when it is defined by social status, or when love is hindered due to religion or external factors due to parental prohibition, there love becomes rage. But for us, love is peace. To whom love was peace, that now is rage. Who did the whole world's soul contract and drove into the grasses of their eyes, countries, towns, and courts? Right? So in the glasses of your eyes, the, maybe the eyes are filled with tears, and in the eyes you can see the towns, or everything is reflected here, the countries, the towns, and the courts. Whereas you pursue these things, everything is found for me in the lover's eyes. Beg from above a pattern of your love. So you will say this: for you, for whom love was peace, give us give us such a love. Make our love so peaceful and so pure as your love was. So that will be your people's prayer when we are canonized. So he is telling that love will endure in legend and verse. Also, uh, their romance, their love will be commemorated, their love will be canonized in later years. How passionate and how safe that passion of the lovers is taken on to spiritual level, right? That is what is done here. Right. So here done is you can see if you moving away gradually towards more serious themes such as love and the union between two lovers, the sexual union being of a more religious nature, of a more mystical or religious experience for the lover. Right, so up to here is everything clear? You have now time for questions and answers. Did you write down anything, or was it too fast or anything? If you have any questions, you can either ask in the chat box, or uh, you can ask through your headset. You can talk to me and ask. No questions? I hope you have understood and read the poem and understood and studied it beforehand, right? Okay. So then shall we move on to the next poem, The Good Morrow? I wonder by my troth what love and I did till we loved. Were we not dreamed till then? So before the lovers met, before they were hit with true love, what were they doing? By truth, what have you and I been doing before we met each other? Were we not still weaned? Before we met, we were enjoying childish pleasures, but sucked on country pleasures childishly, or snorted we in the seven sleepers den. 'Twas so, but this all pleasures fancies be. If ever any beauty I did see, which I desired and got, 'twas but a dream of thee. Right? So now he's narrating his experience as a lover. Before we met, we were enjoying our lives. It's true, we were enjoying, but all other pleasures that we enjoyed before this time were, of course, childish, sensual pleasures in the countryside. Whatever we enjoyed, whatever noble tasks we did, was a childish experience. In Arabic, the narrator expresses something of this kind, right? He says before he saw this girl, everything becomes childish fancy. Everything is but child's play. All kinds of play that he beforehand he engaged, even his studies becomes child's play when they are so enthralled in their love. Or snorted be in the seven sleepers den. So the image here is of the at this time it seems that some seven Christians were had enclosed them in a cave, and they were sleeping there for maybe nearly 2 centuries or so. I don't know, right? So there's a legend about the seven sleepers. You can refer to it on the internet. So the seven sleepers were shut in their caves, and when they woke up, they found that the Christianity had taken over the world. Christianity has spread, and it was now the religion of the world. So till then they were sleeping. So when they woke up, they found themselves in a new world. So in the same way, these two lovers had been all this while they had been sleeping, and now they are waking up. This is the waking up to a new truth. This is the thing, right? So of course, with the experience of falling in love, this is the thing. Right now, only we are waking up. This is the real thing that we have been waiting for our lives. So that is the experience is telling. It was so. But this, all pleasures fancies be. This experience makes all other pleasures a mere fancy. If ever any beauty I did see, if ever I saw any beauty before this, which I desired and got, if I ever had any other passion or any other interest or any other goal or any other beauty, and I got it, it was but a dream of thee. It was just a shadow of this experience. It was not real compared to this experience. That experience was a mere fancy or a mere shadow. And now good morrow to our waking souls, now waking up from that dream. Yeah, our souls are waking, which watch not one another out of fear. For love, all love of other sides controls. Now we are not watching each other out of fear. right? Not the initial fear has disappeared, and we look at each other with love. For love, all love of other sides controls. So, do you agree with that? If it's true love, this love controls the love of all other things. The love for voyages, the love for exploration, the love of maybe uh, worldly things, right? The love of all other things is controlled by the all-consuming, all-passionate one love, and makes one little room and everywhere, right? So of course Don Dunn's imagery here is especially relating to the notion of the empire, the expansion, new territories, new discoveries, voyages. Let sea discoverers to new worlds have gone. Let the discoverers travel across the seas. Let maps to other worlds have shown. Let the map makers draw more maps. Right? The voyagers are discovering new lands, new maps are being drawn. But let it be so. We make our own world. Let us possess one world. Each hath one and is one. For us, we are not interested in the discovery of other worlds. We possess one world, each other's world. We have, we each of us have our own world, and that world is one world. So see here the how he builds up the idea. Let us possess one world. Each hath one. Each hath one world and is one. So that is one. They each have their own separate world, and then later on is one, right? So the two worlds becoming one in the same line separated by a comma. Very nicely, very economically brought up. Let maps, the last three lines there. Let's see, discoverers to new worlds have gone. Let maps to other worlds on worlds have shown. Let us possess one world. Each hath one and is one. Right? Gradually highlighting uh, the notion of the union of having possessing one world. My face in thine, thine in mine appears. In the eyes of the lover, you can see each other's faces, and true plain hearts do in the faces rest. Where can we find two better hemispheres without sharp north, without declining west? Where can we find two better hemispheres without sharp north, without declining west? Uh, so there, in every world we find the north and the west, right? So that is found in the two lovers. In that, their world is composed of that. Whatever dies was not mixed equally. If our two loves be one, or thou and I love so alike, that none do slacken, none can die. So again that idea of being immortal in their love. None can die because of our love. We become immortal by the power of our love. If our two loves be one, if our two loves are one, and thou and I love so alike. So what does he mean by the two loves be one? That means if the two loves are one, means if both of them love each other equally, in such a way that none is slackening, in such a way that none slackens, then none can die. So if they love each other equally, equally and strongly in the same way, then none of them can die. So he says that whatever dies was not mixed equally. If there is death, that means the lovers have not loved each other equally. So, but if they love each other equally, if their love is strong enough, if the love that they have for each other is strong on both ends, then they will not die, they will become immortal. Right. So I think that's all that we have for Donne's poetry. Any other questions? Any other Cases which are hazy or unclear in these poems, you can have time for questions and answers, right? After that, we will be discussing the themes and the techniques of the poem. Do you have any questions regarding this? Yes, no questions.
Good morning, madam. I have a question.
Yes, what is it?
It is regarding that poem, The Good Morrow. In that poem, the first stanza, they have mentioned that we are in the seven sleepers.
Yes.
That has alluded incidents. No, what are the who are the seven sleepers? Can you please just point out some of that?
The story. Yes. It seems that there have been some Christians. I am also not very sure of this story, but there are different notions. Some of them. The story that I am familiar with is that this, the Dead Sea Scrolls. There were some scrolls. This group of Christian scholars. They were of the opinion that the world would come to an end, and then they shut themselves in a cave, believing that the world will soon end. And then, so due to that, they shut themselves in a cave. But then they were dead by the time they were found out, right? So that is what is alluded in the Seven Sleepers Den. But now, when I was preparing for this poem, I found out that there was another explanation which said that the these people were imprisoned in the cave, the den. So I don't think that,
Any,
that
I'm sorry for interrupting you, ma'am. And is that those are the people who's miraculously slept for 187 years in the cave? No, is that
yes, that is what is said there. Almost
yeah?
200 years they slept. So we don't know how true that is, because
Yeah.
it is we cannot. It defies our sense of reason that they slept for 187 years. Most probably they would have starved and died by that time, right?
Yeah.
So it's a sort of a legend. So the Seven Sleepers Den. If you type it on Google, you might get the. But the idea here is that they are the whatever the legend is. The idea here is that they have been sleeping, right, for 7 years. No, not for 7 years. For a long period of time before they fell in love. Before that time, they were sleeping, right? So that is the idea. Yeah. Yes. Any other questions? Is that clear? Aspar?
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Right. Okay. So we'll move on to the. Yes. It's important. Yes, it is important to know about the historical importance of the poem. Yes, it's important to know the historical background. It is important that you know it, right? So That is why I told you these all the images that he uses are images of voyages, discoveries, the images of territorial or geographical expansion, mapping new worlds, voyages, discoveries, right? In other words, the expansion of the empire. Because at this time, colonization was taking place there. So he does not directly allude to that idea, right? But he does draw images, draw from those images the idea. Uh, that influence is there in his poetry. Even in his love poetry, when he is talking about love, is the image of discoveries of new voyages, of new geographical areas that is there, right? So the images he borrows is that from the colonial empire. John Donne at this time, there was a plague which is called the Black Death, right? But it does not come into his poetry. Here, in selection we have been given only John Donne's love poems, but he also did many other uh, wrote religious poems and poems about death. So now, if you had studied Donne's biography, you might have noted that he was uh, born into a Catholic family, but later on he began to question his faith, and then he converted to the Anglican religion, Anglican Christianity, and he was made a deacon or a priest in that religion, right? So his love story and his marriage is also an interesting one. So if you this this his spontaneity and his language and his diction, all that is found even in his other poems. Now, when he said, "Death, do not be proud," directly addressing death, we call it an apostrophe. Apostrophe, the apostrophe addressing death. Death, do not be proud. And better my heart that 3% God. Talking to the Holy Trinity, addressing the Holy Trinity. He says, if you can't ravish me, right? So even in his religious poetry, the sexual connotations are there. So it's very interesting and very lively. No other poet has uh, exploited the sensual aspect of body to the extent that Donne has done. Even his other metaphysical poets, such as Andrew Marvell, they are, of course, they are also interesting, but uh, Donne is the one who stands out in his use of language. Okay, then shall we move on to the themes? Can you all unmute your microphones at this stage because it is a discussion, and I am also slightly becoming bored of this. What can you say are the themes in Donne's poems as shown in your selection? Can anyone say what is the theme? What are the themes, overall themes?
Love through spirituality, or love together with spirituality.
Correct. Love together with spirituality. Physical love is equal to spiritual love. That is a very much running theme in Donne's poems. Physical love is equated with spiritual love. See, what he says is love transcends the mere physical nature of love. It's more of a spiritual experience. The act of love or the act of making love is a spiritual experience, and it's a spiritual union whereby the two lovers are made immortal and even made canonized, right? Raised to the level of saints.
Madam,
Yes,
hello.
yes.
does the speaker give advice to both couples? I mean the two people, the lovers,
Power.
through his poetry.
Does he do that? What is the idea of the others? Does he give any advice to the lovers? Anyone? Does he give any advice to the lovers as such? All right.
In the third poem, that Good Morrow,
Mm.
the poet expresses that their love is perfection, and together it will be immortal when they are together. I mean, he's giving a sort of
Advice.
advices, to be together. Then only the feeling will never die. In the
It's a
last
kind.
stanza, if in the last stanza in the poem, the Good Morrow, the speakers talks about that perfection of love. If our two lovers be one, or though I love, so no, he's giving a sort of advices, isn't it, ma'am?
Yeah, yeah. You can take it as an advice. This is this what you're saying. If our two loves be one, and or thou and I love so alike, that none do second, none do die. Is that what you are referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, yeah, of course.
That's it. The last two lines, three lines.
He's expressing that about future, no?
Mm.
So
Yes,
what will happen in the future when you are together?
that's correct. Who can comment on that? It's a very good point that you found out. Whatever dies was not mixed equally. It's a kind of an advice to the lover, he says. But apart from the word advice, there's something else here. Whatever dies was not mixed equally. If our two loves be one, or in other words, if you and I love alike, that none do second, none can die. What is the other suggestion here in that?
In here, the poet or the speaker is here, madam. John Donne is a poet or a speaker.
Uh, this poet or the speak in the sense it's the first person narrative. So the
Yeah.
poet is the speaker.
Okay. Thank you.
What can you find out in that those three lines? Just give me 1 second. Oh yes. Can you find, as Aspar pointed out, another meaning in those three lines? If love, our two loves be one, and thou and I love so alike that none do second, none can die. Now, all throughout, I have been telling you that there is this illusion that the love is immortal, and it's the union is perfect, and we are made saints through this love. But actually, there is also another connotation here. There is a slight undertone. Whatever dies was not mixed equally. And if our loves are alike, if we love each other in the same way, then none can die. What does he say in different, in other words? Can anyone find out? If we will not die if we love each other equally. So if we will be, in other words, we will be immortal if we are loving each other in equal terms. But what is the other meaning which he doesn't say here? That means if we die, that means
Your
one of us.
feeling will be, if you die. That he expresses that if we are together, you are living together, our love become a perfection, and also the feeling will be long last, will never die,
Yeah.
and it has a idea of that. Yes, I think.
Yes, that's it. Yes, and Hikashi says is the being together, physically being present to each other, isn't it?
Yeah,
That will last as long as the two lovers are together. Yeah, you can take that as well. The physical togetherness of the lovers is important. Of course, you can tell it
that is
is
a
of.
that is a hyperbole, that poet uses the technique, the hyperbole, Polly. The
You
last two
can
lines, if
last
we.
to, yeah, can say. But other than that, there is another tone here. If you read it carefully, if you read the uh, underlying meaning,
Yeah,
if so, what he says is, if we each love each other, if we love each other equally, we will not die. So he is building up another idea that if we are dying, that means we have not loved each other equally, right? So that is also another theme that is related to Don's love poems. It's not has not been widely discussed, but the fickleness of human love is also the undercurrent, an undercurrent of those lines. Whatever was whatever dies was not mixed equally. So what if there if it is dying, that means it's not has not been mixed equally. We have not loved each other. So that is why we die. Right? So the beautiful idea here, the underlying see here. It begins with this. I wonder why truth, what were we doing before we fell in love with each other? Were we not enjoying childish pleasures? So we fell in love. So now enthralled in love, so much caught up in the love that everything else becomes a childish pleasure. And in the second stanza, he takes this to the climax and says, now we are waking up, good morning to our waking souls, and we make all love of other sides controls. Do you agree with this, the girls of this earth? If you really love me, you will not love anything else, he says, right? But true love, all love of other sides controls and makes one little room in everywhere. So if you truly love me, you will not love anything else. Even not only not anything else, not just another person. Right? You might not even love the voyagers the sea discovers. That's what he says, right? Let sea discoverers new worlds have gone. Let them discover new lands. Let voyagers go. Let them map other worlds. Right? So there was a very what you call that interesting voyaging and exploration. People had a very much fancy for that at this age. Right? Voyaging and exploring were very much on the trend at this time. They had a passion for it. So let them do that. Whereas we will love, we will find the world within ourselves, in each other's hearts. So if you truly love, you will love all love of other sides controls. And then in the next stanza, he says in response to that, he says, whatever dies was not mixed equally, right? So if there is some other love, then that means some love has been lacking, something in the love has been lacking. If our two loves are one, and if you and love alike, then none do slacken, none will die. So if we have truly loved each other, then we would have been immortal, and then we would not have any desire to travel or explore. Is that true? Do you agree? Or is it a very controversial or critical idea that John Donne is telling here, that a selfish idea where he say if you really fall in love with a woman or a man, you must give up all your other loves.
We don't
This was
agree, ma'am.
You don't agree with it, isn't it?
that is a very controversial idea. No, I don't agree with those things.
You don't agree. None of the girls also don't agree. So that's why John Donne
The speakers, leading us in a wrong path. I hope.
is not it's not an advice. It's a uh, immoral advice, kind of. Is it?
Yeah, yeah, it is immoral, and also, it is only his maybe his experience on. I really respect his expression of love, and anyhow, there may be some reasons behind that. No?
We just respect his experience and his expression, but we don't go beyond that to believing what he expressed. Yeah, that's it.
We have a tradition and we have a culture, so our things should be limited,
Limited. So it's always
and
better to go by
yeah,
the
we can't go beyond beyond those ideas.
we can't go beyond the religion. It is better to love the way we know and keep our religion and our culture and then say stay with it. I think all other
Yeah.
students express this. So that is also a theme of John Donne's poetry. The fickleness, of course, he has written some nice poems about the fickleness of women. If you go on the internet, you will find out that his earlier love poems. If, what is this? Go and catch a falling star. It said, go and catch a falling star. Even if you find a woman who will love me, by the time she is in love with you, she would have been false to two or three other men. So the fickleness or the infidelity of these lovers is also a theme, a recurrent theme in John Donne's poetry. He is pointing the finger at the woman especially. So that is why, of course, maybe he is going to go in the first poem. No, he is. I'm not. Now he is trying to go. So maybe he is feeling that his lover does not love him that much. Because that's why he says, "I'm going in search of a new world." Right. So I'm not saying that the world can show a future love for me, but I must go. So he's trying to depart. So why is he trying to depart? Maybe because of the inadequacy of the love, maybe. Right? So I don't know. It is John Donne who is saying this. It's John Donne's idea, right?
Madam said that this period, this Johnton period, is affected by the plague. So that's why he was talking about the eternal love. That is the reason for he telling about like that eternal love.
It's true, can be, because actually one of his brothers has died from the plague. That's true, right? Maybe that led him to contemplate the nature of love, the nature of death, and also immortality. Of course, he also died, and it was during his that period that he wrote death poems. But even before that, there is even now. Don't you agree? Even in his poems, the idea of death, departure, even in a such simple poem like "Sweetest Love I Do Not Go," we find death and undercurrent, the underlying meaning of a poem. There is a small undertone of death, of departure, isn't it? Do not think think any ill. You destiny may take thy part and neither she is fulfilled. And just think that we are but turned aside to sleep, and they who one another keep alive never parted be. We cannot never be parted. That idea of death, we might be parted in that in the very word while he says that we are not parted, we will not die, we will become immortal. In those very words, there is the hint of being parted, dying, right? When you say that death is defeated, there is the other undertone that death is not difficult, he has victory, right? So the opposite is always highlighted. It is not so much a very playful poem, right? So that is the specialty in Donne's poems. Although he appears playful, and his paradoxes and the conceits are very unusual and radical, through those paradoxes and through these images, he takes us to a deeper level, the reality of death and departure, of separation. Those things are very much there. in his poems. Even in the poem Sweetest Love, Love I Do Not Go, the idea of departure of separation, it is there. So in this first poem, we see the themes of love. Here, of course, there is no the talk of union, but love, separation, departure, it is there. Anything else? And as you said, the idea of immortality, always in the poem it is there. How to become immortal, right? Of course, all the poets have in some way, they are obsessed with this idea of immortality. How is he trying to be immortal? In the second poem, especially in the canonization, love itself makes them immortal, and also our legend be it will be fit for verse, right? We'll build sonnets in pretty rooms. Uh, their romance or their love, or they will be preserved in poetry, in art, in literature. They will be preserved. So the idea of immortality is there. It will be their love will endure in verse and rhyme. So immortality, death, separation, love. Anything else that you noticed in the poem?
So he expected before the death, so everything. That is the reason of this type of revealing his poem.
Sorry?
He expect her whole love from her before there's death. That is the reason to talk about the eternal love.
He experienced death before he met love.
He expect I mean he expect like their relationship before the death. So that's why he tell like this before the death. I mean,
He wants the lover to meet him, get married before his death. Is it?
yeah, yes,
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Could be
because
a reason. Yes.
yeah, in this line, the fourth stanza, he said that so to one natural thing both sexes fit, we die and rise the same and true mysterious by this love. The
Canonization.
canonization. Yeah.
Hmm. Yes. So maybe what he wants is to become immortal. We find in us legal and the Davadathiya, by us we to be one if to unnatural thing both sexes fit, we die and rest. So before dying, before the end of his life, he wants to be united with physically united with his lover so that he might be immortal. Maybe it's a expression of his natural fashion, isn't it? We want to be united in one, and then by that love, by that passion, we were reborn and we are made immortal. So maybe there was intended. That might be true because but it gives us the feeling that this affair was prohibited, so that before they can be united in a marriage or something, he wanted to have love because there was the possibility of the lovers being separated suddenly before they can get married. So maybe it is true, yes. Yes, any other themes of death and separation, or not maybe not death is not very clearly depicted, but maybe separation, hint of death, tone of death, separation, uh, departure, and all that is there. And then of course love, right? When you say love, you must understand it's almost sex, but of course it is not just the carnal passion, right? Not the mere sensual pleasure, not just taking the woman as a sort of an object for pleasure. It's just love, right? And a celebration of the union between the two souls. Love, physical passion, physical love, going on to a spiritual union, a spiritual love. And also immortality, and then also death, right?
Mm,
Okay.
right.
Any other now if we come to the techniques, what can you say about the technique? What is the frequent meat of the poems? Did you try attempt to analyze the meat of the poem?
In the second stanza, he asks the questions through. That's why he stimuli the reader and speak so the listener. That is the technique of his lines.
Yes, very true. The questions. His diction is, his poems are scattered. You can say that his poems are scattered with questions. If in the canonization, who is injured by my love? What merchant ships have I signed down? It's a series of questions leading to an argument. So the argument is put forward through a series of questions. Right? It's better if you can write, if you can note down at least the techniques. So it is as if the writer, the narrator, wants the listener to find out for themselves, argue within themselves, argue in their own minds, and come to the conclusion. What right does the do the people have to stop this affair? What is the reason for this prohibition? By what right do they have to put an end to this affair? So through the series of questions he builds the argument. The argumentative quality, the argumentative content is present in almost all of his poems.
Yes.
Compared to all Elizabethan poems, for example, my mistress's eyes are nothing like this. Of course, also there are also comparisons there in Shakespeare's poems, but here it is purely argument, the use of logic and reason to build up arguments, right? Not the softness. Even things such as love are built up through arguments. And then questions becomes a powerful tool when he is bringing out that argument. Apart from questions, there is another technique that is used. The liveliness of the language is maintained by the questions, and also, as I said earlier, the commands, the imperatives. For God's sake, hold your tongue and let me love. The imperative, the command, right? That is how he maintains that liveliness. Mark but this plea and in this plea. So that's a command. And the apostrophe, addressing the speaker directly. It gives a very dramatic quality to his poems. We can actually imagine the episode on the stage where these two lovers are sitting maybe on a bench and the flea is biting them. Say, hold, do not, uh, what's called, kill this flea, right? Oh, stay, three lives in one flea spare, right? Very dramatic. The voice of the narrator comes out very sharply in these poems. It is mainly, as I said, because of the questions and the commands. Very clearly we can hear his voice. Then what can you say of the rhythm? Of course, we talk about the language. Is this language simple or complex?
It's a simple language.
Simple language, very, very much simple. Now, the arguments are complex, right? They are logical, They are twisting, right? They will twist your mind, but the language that it presented is very direct and spontaneous and simple and flowing, right? And the imagery that he is using. What can you say about the images? You can talk about the conceit, the metaphysical conceit, right? So what is the metaphysical conceit? Two images that are greatly different from each other or very much unlike each other are used for a comparison. For example, two lovers and the two hands of the compass, or the marriage bed to a flea. Very unlikely images are compared, but they bring out a deeper truth, right? Isn't it true now when he says, in the flea the two bloods are mingled and that it's almost a marriage has taken place there, we would laugh at it. But isn't it true at the same time that if that has happened in the flea, what's wrong in that it happens in us? What's the deal, right? But what's the big deal there? In a way, it's true, right? You can see the deeper truth there.
And also he used the connotative language. Connotative words like winds, sun in the language.
Things, yes. Connotative language, yes. Connotational meaning, the underlying meaning of that, yes.
Yeah.
And the image, as you said, the images, the more wings and spurs than he. So the sweetest love I do not go. There isn't a lot of imagery, but of course there is a lot of argument there. Although said it's a song, right? There's the argument is there, but the image of the wings and the spurs, the chariot, the image of the sun compared to a lover, that is also a comparison, a simile, a metaphor, and the wings and the spurs.
And and also that imagery of sunrise, sunset.
Where is that? In the first poem?
Uh,
Yes. Of the sunrise, the sun comes, the sun rising, yes. The sun arriving and the sun setting in the chariot, yes, that is there. Visual images are there very much. What do the images do? Mainly the images are, especially they are scattered with, as I told you earlier, images of uh, geographical expansion. They are there, right? Mapping other worlds, sea discoverers, new worlds, all that is there. Here, even in the sweetest love, I do not go. Right? Now, in hope the world can show a fitter love of me. So I'm not going in search of a new world, in the idea of a new love. Right? Mm, even in the canonization, it's there. Right? Merchants, ships, uh, soldiers find laws. Merchants, ships, it's there. The idea of geographical expansion of the colonization.
And also
And
the third stanza, envy is find the eagle and the dove is compared with yourself.
yes, that image is there. That is, of course, religious imagery. What are the other images of the of other worlds? We hear in the last stanza in the canonization, you the whole world soul contract and drove into the glasses of your eyes, countries, towns, courts, right? It was an era of prosperity, although there was the plague. It was the era of prosperity where there was the courts, king's courts were flourishing. There was the church was becoming strengthened, right? New countries, towns were flourishing, cities were flourishing. So that idea is here. So everything is in this. It's depicted in this girl's eyes, right? The lover's eyes. You can see all that in her eyes. So no need for me to go and Of course, everyone is enthralled by this new development, this new flourishing of the expansion. But I am, of course, content with my love. So that is the comparison here. And then, of course, the religious images. As you said, the dove and the eagle. The eagle flies soars above the earth, and the dove rises from the earth, above the earth, and goes to heaven. Also, it descends from heaven, as in the Holy Spirit. The dove descends from heaven to the earth. So, the symbol of union, almost a mystical or Christian experience, right? So, the Christian images, as I said, it is these are not used to give. These are not used to give idea expression to a Christian themes, but they are used to exemplify his own own ideas of love, right?
Okay.
Right. So the Christian images, for example, the tapers, the candles, and as you said, the dove, and the phoenix. The phoenix is, of course, an image borrowed from Greek and classical mythology. Uh, and the marriage bed and the marriage temple. These ideas are images are used to exemplify their love and how sacred their love is. We can see a very clear departure from how Christian images are treated in dance poems. Earlier Christian images were given prominence to show the holiness of love in the Christian notion of love. The Christian notion of love, Christianity does not condone physical or carnal pleasures, right? So the Christian form of true love, pure love, that is expressed through Christian images or symbols. Even the dove was used, but here Chris, John Donne departs from that love. Here he celebrates carnal love, but using Christian images. So that is a very daring and a very radical move, considering the poetry that was written during his time. What the critic says, what he used, he was influenced by Christian images. That's why he was using these Christian images, but in a new way, in a very new, interesting way, with a fresh insight into it. So he breaks away from that religious notion of love, or the very cultured spiritual notion of pure love, and goes on to celebrate carnal love, but using the same images or the same imagery that was used to express pure love. Yes, so that is the imagery. And then what can you tell about the rhythm? Most of it is written in what meter? Iambic meter. Is it? Do you find a very regular rhythm in these lines? If you look at these lines, I wander by my heart, what thou and I did till we loved. Were we not weaned till then, but sunk on country pleasures childishly? Or snorted we in the seven sleepers' den? 'Twas so, but this, or pleasures fancies be. If ever any beauty I did see, which I desired and got, 'twas but a dream of thee. Is that a regular rhythm? Is there a regular rhythm there? Yes, Sintuja. Is there a student called Sintuja here? Anyone who can answer, talk about the rhythm of the poem? Anyone who studied that beforehand?
Maybe B.Ed.
Yes, A, B, B, A. That is maybe the rhyming pattern. I, childishly. Who has can answer the questions on rhythm? There is a basic iambic rhythm, right? 5 meters, 5 feet you can find, but occasion,
Iambic pentameters, no? Is the
yes,
regular rhythm?
yes, the regular rhythm is iambic pentameter, but occasionally the rhythm is second, right? On all the poems, except in the maybe in the first poem. In all the other poems, the rhythm is somewhat violated here and there to keep the maintain the liveliness of the poem, right? So two things we note here. The first thing is what we call run-on lines or caesura. C is Caesura, right? Run-on lines, that means run-on lines we call enjambment. So the first line running on to the next, that is called enjambment. Now, for example, in the first line of the Good Morrow, I wander by my truth wast thou, and I did till we loved. So the first line runs on into the second line. So that gives a very conversational tone to the poem. All throughout it is there, right? And if unfit for tombs and hearse our legend be, it will be fit for verse. Stanza before the last one in canonization. And if unfit for tombs and hearse our legend be, it will be fit for verse. So if ever any beauty I did see, which I desired and got, was but a dream of thee. Right? So see the gradual flattening of the tone. It's achieved through the punctuation marks. There are pauses in between the lines, and these pauses increase towards the end. If ever any beauty I did see, which I desired and got, was but a dream of thee. Right? So the pauses highlight the significance or the weight of that finding, the ultimate finding. It was but a dream of thee. So before that, but the dream of thee, there we get the emphasis because of the comma in the previous word, and got. If any beauty I did see, which I desired and got, 'twas but a dream of thee. At the got, we pause there, and 'twas but a dream of thee gets the weight. Now, careful handling of the punctuation. The punctuation is important here in altering the rhythm and maintaining the liveliness of the poem. Any other techniques? Paradoxes are there, what you call the hyperbole, the unkindly kind, right? The life's blood, of course, in clear images, right? The life's blood does decay, right? Almost everywhere the paradoxes are brought out. If you cannot say that you love me as you say, because if you are in your life, you are wasting my life, right? In that argument, there is the
மேடம் படிப்பிச்சு கொண்டு இருக்கிற அதுல ஜூம்ல என்ன கேள்வி எல்லாம் கேட்கலாமில்ல ஆக்கள் கேள்வி கேட்டு ஆன்சர் பண்ணலாமில்ல அதுல அசர் விசார் கேள்வி கேட்டு கொண்டு இருந்தேன் அதான் வழிங்க சொன்னேன் நான் சொன்னேன் நான் எப்ப பார்த்தாலும் இந்த சந்தேகம் அந்த
Sorry?
இந்த புத்தியும் உன்னை விட்டு போகாதே
Yes. So those are the basic techniques that are used by the poet. All throughout the language is witty, uh, full of arguments, fresh, right? Witty, intellectual, full of paradoxes, analogies, unusual similes, and metaphors. Right. Any questions here? No. Yes, if you have any question, you can ask, right? So it's almost 10:20 now. I will stop at 10:30, right? Because it's difficult to do a poetry session more than 2 hours.
Excuse me, madam. So, in the exam paper, we'll be getting these poems all together or separately?
No,
Should be
mostly
separately.
not separately in the sense for the now I have for the context question, you might be given a context from one of the poems, right? But if, you might get a common question from Dunn's poetry, right?
From all the poems?
Yes. So the
A
analyze
common
the
one.
theme, analyze the themes
Okay.
in Dunn's poems.
So we should compare all these four
Yes.
or five poems and then have to take the theme, no? And
Yes. Theme in, take examples using at least 3 of Don's poems or 4, whatever, right? The more you have, the better. We study all, be familiar with all the poems.
all the poems. Okay. Thank you, madam.
It is because like you might for there are particular poems that are good for each and everything. Now for the argumentative context, the sweetest love I do not go is good. But if you are talking about the radical images used, the canonization and the free, they are best. Then good morrow is also good, the power of love, right? So all that is good. Each of the poems have their own sense of bit to be familiar with all and have a list of quotations which go for everything, right? Now I will tell you about a plan that I have for the assignments. I am planning to have one assignment after the lecture, right? So that means now I have told all of you to get ready for the poems uh, beforehand. So always get ready for the poems beforehand. Without knowledge of the poems, you cannot come to the lecture. You cannot follow the lecture without studying the poems beforehand. So always study and come. So immediately after the lecture, I am thinking of giving you one assignment, right? So it's a simple one, not going into very much long answers, maybe 1 page answers. Right? Now, for example, from this lecture, I can ask you to write about the techniques used in Donne's poetry or the themes commonly found in John Donne's love poetry. So, very basically, there are 4-5 themes. You can exemplify at least on 3 themes using suitable examples. So, that would be one. And maybe before the lecture also I might give an assignment, right? So I'm not sure. So always go through the poems before, prior to the lecture, and also at the same time during the lecture you need to pay attention to what I am saying, right? Otherwise, without following the lecture, without taking down notes appropriately, you will not be able to write for the final exam. So it's important that you learn to take down notes during the lecture. And then another assignment would be a past paper question, and another would be a context question. So those 2 questions I'm going to do towards the end of the semester. Once we have done covered like say almost 80% of the syllabus, I will give you a context question from any of the poems which I have taught. And also the next poem will be a past paper question, right? So get hold of the past papers now itself and try to prepare for your exam. Now, I will give you some handy tips. The easiest way is to take down the past list of past papers and write down the questions. Have a section for poetry. A book one says ERP for poetry, and on the right left hand side of the page write the question. Say for example, what are the themes that are commonly addressed in John Donne's love poetry? So that means that imagine that is the question. So write that question down on the right hand side of the page. You can write down the themes and for each theme the relevant quotation, right? So if, for example, if the theme is love, a quotation for love, two quotations for love. And if it is for another theme would be death and separation, so a quotation for that. Another theme would be immortality or yes, immortality, quotation for that. Another image for religion. The theme is religion, so another quotation for religion or death, like that, right? So for the 3 or 4 themes, um, each 2 quotations for each theme, right? So that way you can organize your work. Otherwise, towards the end of the semester, you will be in a rush, not knowing what to study, right? So always take a set of past papers, write the question down and the relevant quotations and study them now itself. And also, of course, I don't know, I hope it will not be in the same class, but I expect that you are familiar with all the poems, right? And the poets. For example, do not write anything like, say, for example, Sweet as Love, I Do Not Go is a poem by William Wordsworth or any such ridiculous thing. I am not prepared for such things. Yes, I am telling you now itself, be familiar with the contextual questions. Also, when you are writing the answers, I expect that it will be error-free, no grammar errors or spelling errors. Of course, spelling errors are not heard of, but grammar errors, especially subject-verb agreements. Especially when you are writing complex sentences, be careful to keep the verb in the proper tense. I corrected some of the answers. Some of the language tends to be tricky. So subject verb agreement has to be very proper because that is like a basic thing. Right? So that I am not going to tolerate grammar errors in the writing. Right? That is one thing, and any grammar errors are not allowed. Yes, other things I will go out when we meet face to face. I think next week, by the time next week, we will be able to resume face to face physical lecture. So by that, in such a lecture, I will explain to you the language errors in your answers, right? Here, hence, he express how he intakes the natural changes in his mind. He expresses it should be. And so, as a reader, we can he realizes, right? So many such errors were there in some of your writing. Some of you were good, but some of you had errors like that. Right. So that is all about John Donne's poetry. Did we have any other poems by any other metaphysical poets? I think we did not have. Did we have? No, right? So this is all. Okay. So we'll stop the lecture for now. It's 2 hours. What is important is that we cover the syllabus within the given time. I will find out the ending date of the semester, and anyway before that time we will do all the assignments and cover all the poems and finish it off, right? So anyway the syllabus, you don't have to worry about covering the syllabus. I will cover the syllabus somehow and at least try to answer 2 or 3 past paper questions. Okay, right? Any questions, any other problems, or shall we wind up for today?
What are the ma'am? What are the areas that we are going to discuss in the coming session, the future session?
Yes, shall we move on to what you call Shakespeare's poems?
Yeah, that's fine. So, what are the poems?
That I have sent in that list
No,
of
that
poems.
already
Yes,
prescribed, no?
yes, already that is there in that
Yeah,
list.
yeah, okay.
Right, so we will talk about that. I don't know, but we have to go for more than 2 poets in a session. If that is the case, we will discuss Shakespeare and William Wordsworth or Blake, right? I will let you know through WhatsApp what we are going to before Tuesday. I will let you know, right? Is that okay? Anyway, we are discussing Shakespeare. If necessary, another poet, either William Blake or William Wordsworth, right?
Fine.
Okay, right. Right. So then shall we wind up for today?
Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Okay, right. So see you again next Saturday. Goodbye.
Yes.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.